Chapter 13. A short, squat man poked his head inside Cole's room. Ketchikan can't send a medevac plane until morning, he called out. It's getting dark and weather has set in. The nurse felt Cole's forehead. Looks like you'll be spending the night at Rosie's one-star hotel. Edwin nodded at Cole. If you hadn't guessed, this is Rosie, he said. A rare smile creased his lips. She's the best nurse in Drake. The only nurse, Rosie added. If you live through Rosie, Edwin said, you'll live through anything. Cole shuddered with another spasm of chills as Rosie gave Edwin a light shove. You and Garvey go make yourselves useful, she said. Get another blanket. Garvey handed Rosie the towel off a chair beside the bed. Here, we brought this in from the island. It's damp, she said. Grab a fresh one from the closet. When Cole spotted the colorful blanket beside him, he felt a sudden warmth. He reached out and grabbed its edge. Garvey studied Cole, letting him clutch the wet towel as Edwin brought another blanket. He squeezed Cole's shoulder. We'll talk more later. Get some rest now. Cole let go of the towel and gripped Garvey's arm. I'm not going anywhere, Garvey reassured him. Rosie and I will be here all night with you. Thanks, Cole whispered. Rosie pushed in beside the bed. This might sting a little. She poked a needle into Cole's left arm. I'm starting an IV drip to get some fluids and antibiotics into you. Finishing, she tilted Cole's head up and put some pills gently inside his mouth. Now take these tablets. They should help the pain. Cole sipped water from the glass she held to his lips and struggled to swallow the pills. When they finally went down, Rosie began working on Cole's wounds. The door opened, and another Tlingit woman brought in a thermos of hot soup and set it next to the bed. Rosie turned to Garvey. Maybe you can get some food into this guy. Edwin remained standing along the wall, watching intently as Garvey placed a big pillow under Cole's head and ladled spoonfuls of chicken broth between his cracked lips. Cole's pain dulled as the medication took effect. Sipping soup, he watched Rosie. She worked cheerfully, as if there were nothing in the world she would rather be doing. When she left the room for more dressings, Garvey turned to Cole. That bear used you for a chew toy. He pursed his lips with concern. I'm sorry for getting you into this. Cole had many things he wanted to explain, but he was too weak and tired now. He shook his head. My fault, he whispered. Garvey glanced at Edwin, who kept his focused gaze. Rosie returned to the bed, her hands filled with rolls of gauze and a brown plastic bottle. Garvey moved away from the bed to give her room. You get some rest while Rosie finishes patching you up, he said to Cole. Can't do much patching, Rosie said. He has broken bones. I wish we had him in a hospital tonight. Cole closed his eyes while Rosie cleaned and bandaged his open wounds. The medicine made him sleepy. Finishing her work, Rosie whispered to Garvey, That bear had quite a time with him. He has broken ribs and maybe a broken pelvis, and add to that the hypothermia and a broken leg and an arm. I'm surprised he's even talking. Must be a tough kid. Not as tough as he thinks, Garvey whispered back. Edwin murmured. He'll be okay if he ever finds a reason to live. Cole heard everyone's words as he drifted off. He slept troubled, dreaming of people he knew coming toward him out of a misty haze. Each person helped him. Garvey fed him, Rosie fixed his wounds, his father gave him money, Edwin offered him advice, his mother cleaned him and handed him new clothes. Cole liked being helped. He liked using people. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck, and all the people turned into monsters. Everything they had done for Cole faded, and they laughed at him. You fool, they called. Why should we do anything for you? You're nothing. You're a baby-faced con. Cole awoke in a sweat. It was night. He searched the darkness frantically. He heard regular breaths near him in the dark. Garvey, he called, realizing he could talk. Garvey. Garvey's hoarse voice answered. You okay, Cole? Cole heard someone getting up to snap the lights on. Garvey, still wearing his rumpled jeans and faded wool shirt, hurried to his bedside. A door opened from the next room, and Rosie rushed in. What's wrong? She asked. Cole looked at the two of them, his nightmare still haunting him. I had a dream, he said, his voice raspy. People helped me, and Then they turned into monsters and laughed at me. It was just a dream, Garvey said, resting his hand on Cole's arm. But you two were there. Rosie took Cole's hand in hers. Well, I'm not a monster, she smiled. Maybe Garvey is. Cole didn't smile. Why do you guys help me? Rosie looked at her watch. It sure isn't for the pay and good hours. Then she shrugged. Why live if you can't help others and make the world a better place? Cole looked up at Garvey. Why do you help me? Because we're friends. Cole let his frustration show. No. You didn't even know me when you first started helping me in Minneapolis. Garvey studied Cole before answering. You're right. I did it for myself. Cole nodded. That's what I figured. You didn't care about me. You're wrong, Garvey said. I did care about you, but helping others is how I help myself. You need help? Cole asked, surprised. Garvey nodded. I see a lot of myself in you. When I was your age, I spent 5 long years in prison for things I'll go to my grave regretting. I lived my early years here in Drake, but no one cared enough to take me through Circle Justice. If they had, maybe things would have been different. He shook his head with a sad smile. Take my word for it. Jail scars the soul, and I was never able to help those I hurt. Cole, Rosie said, touching his bandaged arm. In a few months, your body will heal, but time won't heal your mind as easily. Helping others can help heal your wounds of the spirit. Still troubled by his dream, Cole said, There are people who want to hurt me. Rosie squeezed Cole's hand. Those are the people who need your help. I'll bet you weren't a bundle of fun when Garvey first met you. Cole shook his head. How is your pain? Rosie asked. I hurt, Cole said. The Tlingit nurse unwrapped a packet and prepared a syringe and needle. Let's give you something to help you sleep. Give me something to take away the monsters, Cole said. Only you can do that, she answered. Cole slept hard, his first real sleep in many days. When he awoke, a small lamp glowed in the dark near his bed. Rosie was already up, working quietly around the room. When she heard him stir, she snapped on the lights and came over beside the bed. Did you sleep well? She asked. Cole nodded. Let's clean your dressings this morning, she said. The people in Ketchikan think we're witch doctors out here in the sticks. Cole grimaced. The pain had returned with a vengeance. Rosie saw him wince and gave him another shot. Things will get worse before they're better, she said. Just warning you so you'll know what to expect. Then she added, but they really will get better. While Cole waited for the medication to dull the pain, Garvey sat upright on his cot and stretched the kinks out of his back. He ran a hand through his tousled hair. How about if I get some breakfast? He said. Rosie nodded approval as she hung a fresh IV. Again, she took Cole's temperature and pulse. Then she brought over a paper bag containing his clothes. Here, she said, placing the bag beside the bed. There wasn't much left of your clothes, but I had them washed up anyway to take with you. Cole eyed the colorful towel blanket folded on top of the bag. As Garvey returned with juice and warm oatmeal, Edwin appeared at the door and announced, The plane is in the air. Should be landing in about 30 minutes. He turned to Rosie. After Cole eats, let's get him down to the dock. I've got help coming. By the time Cole finished eating, 2 boys from the village had arrived to help lift him. The boys, both Cole's age, eyed him curiously as they carried him on a stretcher out to a waiting van. Rosie rode beside Cole in the van, holding his IV bag. When they reached the marina, the boys again helped Garvey and Edwin carry the stretcher to the end of the dock. Rosie hung Cole's IV from a dock post. I'll be right back, she said. I need your medical records from the van. The boys followed Rosie, leaving Edwin and Garvey alone with Cole. Edwin looked out at the horizon glowing red with early dawn. Tell me what happened out there, he said. I didn't think anybody cared about me anymore, Cole said, struggling to speak. That's why I burned the shelter. Hesitantly, he explained how he had tried to escape the island and how he was mauled trying to kill the spirit bear. I wanted to kill it because it wasn't scared of me, he admitted. As Garvey and Edwin listened, he continued, telling next about the storm. When Cole had finished, Garvey said, You may never get use of that arm again. Life is made up of consequences, and you've sure made some bad choices. Cole nodded. My arm isn't important. Garvey gave Cole a puzzled look. Why do you say that? If I like the cake, maybe the ingredients are okay too. Cole smiled weakly. A famous parole officer told me that once. Garvey raised an eyebrow. A famous parole officer let you get mauled by a bear. Now you'll end up in a hospital. When you're released, you'll still have your parents to deal with, and you'll still be facing a jail term. I doubt the hearing circle will consider returning you to the island after what's happened. You realize all that, don't you? Cole nodded. I do, but it's okay. Whatever happens now, I'm done being mad. Edwin shook his head. A person is never done being mad. Anger is a memory never forgotten. You only tame it. He pointed out toward the islands. Tell me more about this spirit bear. Well, the bear was pure white, Cole said. The last time it came, it stood over me. He spoke in a whisper. I reached up and touched it. Edwin studied Cole. Spirit bears live hundreds of miles south of here off the coast of British Columbia, not here in these islands. He shook his head. We've hunted here since I was young, and so have my parents and their parents. There are no spirit bears around here except maybe in your mind. Cole started to argue, then remembered the handful of white hair he had pulled off the bear. Want to bet? He said, reaching for his pants in the bag beside him. Suddenly he paused. His life had become filled with lies, and the more he lied, the more he always tried to prove he was right. Never had he been strong enough to simply tell the truth. Cole put down the bag. Today, things would change. From now on, he would speak the truth, even if it meant going to jail. He spoke softly. I don't need to prove anything. I'm telling the truth. Edwin narrowed his eyes at Cole, then he turned and walked up the dock. Looks like I'm going to catch a can with you, Garvey said. I need to go get my things. I'll be right back. As he turned to leave, he winked. Don't go anywhere. Cole watched Garvey leave. Finding himself alone, he looked out at the mirrored water. Maybe he had never really seen the spirit bear. He strained his neck to make sure nobody was watching, then reached into the paper bag and pulled out his jeans. Carefully, he poked his hand into the front pocket and wrapped his fingers around something matted and fuzzy. He pulled his hand from the bag and opened his fist. There in the palm of his hand was a wad of hair. Cole stared. The hair was white. All white. It's true, he whispered. I wasn't lying. Deliberately, he raised his hand and tossed the hair into the water. Beginning today, he would tell the truth. His words would become his only proof. As loud voices approached the dock and a plane droned overhead, circling to land, Cole watched the white patch of hair. It floated on the water, and the breeze tugged it out away from the dock. The little clump bobbed about, drifting with the tide, then finally blinked from sight. Smiling, Cole rested his head on the stretcher. Edwin had said that anger was a memory never forgotten. That might be true, but the spirit bear was also a memory that would never disappear from his mind or heart.